Hi, welcome to the Diablo Podcast. We are online at diablopodcast.com, and this is a service of diabloincgamers.com. I am your host, Flux. We are joined this week by Azzure.
Hello, hello.
Making his triumphant return.
Rawr.
And JrMint, or possibly Junior Mint.
Junior Mint. Hey, guys.
And I believe you were on the Demon Hunter podcast previously.
Yeah, that's correct. That was my first foray into this.
And have you been spreading out, or are you still Demon Huntering?
No, I've put a good amount of time into my Barbarian as well since then, but I have since actually cleared Inferno Diablo on my Demon Hunter since then as well, so it's been good.
Zoom, zoom. Azzure, you've got about 20 minutes before you have to go do some sort of ceremonial barbecuing in your native land for some sort of holiday.
Yep.
And Xanth's going to hop in once you're gone, so we'll get right to your thing.
Cool.
You were obviously a big fan of the game in advance and played in the beta, and you were running our econ site and all excited about real money auction housing. And then the game came out, and you bought everything in the auction house and immediately burned out on the game because it was too easy and you could never find any drops, and you quit playing and made Jay Wilson cry. Does that about sum it up?
That's a pretty good sum up, actually, yes. Minus the buying everything from the auction house.
And now V104 has come out, and it's all better, and you're playing again.
Yep. V104 was, what I think the game should have been at release.
Should you be shunned?
No. I had every right to be upset the earlier stages of the release, I think.
What do you think, Junior Mint? Should we shun him?
I think so. I mean, if you're going to be hardcore, you got to stick through the good times and the bad, bro.
And is that because he's a fickle game player, or because he's Australian?
I'd say a equal combination of both.
Okay. So what changed in V104 that made the game good for you again, Azzure?
I guess the biggest thing is Legendaries and loot in general, because that was something that was, I think the two major issues in the end game, and why so many people burnt out roughly, within that 2-week mark or 1 month mark for some people, is because they reached Inferno and suddenly there's these stupid, crazy elites one-shotting you, and then the fact that Legendaries was so boring and crappy, it was like, what's the point of playing? Because I finally, killed enough monsters to finally get a legendary, and this legendary is an absolute joke. It's, designed to be almost 1/3 of the DPS it should be, and it just sort of made it not fun enough to actually sit there and farm, which is what the Diablo game's all about, what the end game's all about. So when you take away that aspect of the game, it's almost like the end game doesn't exist. And, when you include the ridiculous difficulty and that sort of stuff, the bullshit deaths, as we like to call them, it was just a pretty bad experience overall. So 104, I guess the biggest thing it did is it made Legendaries interesting again, which made the item hunt interesting again, and the subtle changes to loot, the way, how eye level 60 weapons and above can roll the best damage, that has a very, subconscious psychological effect on the end game. It makes it feel a lot more fun when you do find loot, and it makes it feel more tolerable to, trek through the hard times, and it just makes it exciting, like that sort of D2 feeling, and that's how I'm feeling right now.
And how are you feeling about 104, Junior Mint?
I definitely agree. With a lot of that, I feel like the game is definitely at a beta. Last Tuesday when it did come out, I have been playing hard ever since then. I have taken the past couple of days off with some other stuff, but I'm really liking it. Just wanted to touch on a couple of things Azzure said. The main point he was making was regarding Legendaries, and I still have a hard time getting excited about Legendaries. Since 1.04, just right below level 10 Paragon, and I haven't seen a single legendary drop. Now, I don't stack much additional magic find, but still, it's just like, does it need to be a 0.0002% chance to drop? Just make it like a 1% drop or a 2% drop, and I probably would have seen one or two by now. And it's just hard for me to get excited about legendaries when it's still that low a drop. But with that said, all the improvements to the abilities that weren't used much, and just, like you said as well, the level 61s and 60s being able to roll like level 63 damage is awesome. All the other stuff has made it worth it, but legendaries are still just hard for me to get excited about.
I've found 3 level 60 or higher uniques since 104. All of them had terrible rolls and sucked when they could have been awesome items. So am I better off or worse off than you are?
I'd say we're about equal. That's the other thing, is they're like, oh yeah, here's this big blog post about how amazing legendaries are now, and there's still there's the bad ones on there still, and so I see those getting posted, like gladiator gauntlets and things like that, which are garbage. buff all the legendaries if that's what's going to be. If you get that low percent chance drop, it should just be a godly item regardless.
The problem with that, people have pointed out, is that it would, because they're trying to make a stable economy long term.
Without
Diablo
resets,
2,
yeah.
Diablo 2, you could slot machine out glorious stuff left and right, and because you just reset the ladders every 6 months or whatever.
Oh, and with the auction house,
they don't want to reset ladders in Diablo 3, so if they squirting out wind forces left and right, pretty soon everyone's got a wind force in a year and a half, and either you have to keep introducing another higher level of better items, or I mean, people blame the real money auction house and whatever, but I mean that's probably part of the reason, but. I think the fact they're not resetting the economy makes it they really have to change the drop rates.
Yeah,
I understand that, and I mean I definitely have seen much more legendaries and them already dropping in price. I mean, you can get a decent wind force for like $5 million, and I've been tempted to buy one just to mess with it, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I was going to sort of add to that and say that I think the fact that the auction house exists sort of bars their ability to do that, to make legendaries more common, because you've got this auction house which is a centralized, a complete opposite of what Diablo 2 was. Instead of having virtually no accessibility to all these awesome items, you now have ultimate accessibility over all these items. So I think that the fact that they had to sort of make items a bit rarer, especially legendaries, because they're static items, or somewhat static items, because of the auction house. And that makes sense, because if you look at the auction house now, I mean, when the patch first came out, every day since then, it's almost, we're seeing massive declines in prices on legendaries. Even, like we said, the Wind Force, you can pick up a crappy Wind Force for $2 million very easily, sometimes cheaper, and, that's the sort of problem we have with the auction house. It's causing the Blizzard to have to do something about controlling the accessibility of all these items, because otherwise, like Flux said, it's going to continue to be, everyone is decked out with legendaries within the first few months of the game, which is a huge problem, because they do not want to reset they do not want to reset the item system, no character wipes, all that sort of stuff. So what Flux says is right. I think they have to sort of strike that balance between how do we make keep the economy interesting and fun without trivializing itemization. To me, the solution is probably a bit of both of what Flux and what you said about the rarity. I think they could probably make legendaries drop a little bit more, but to counteract that, they should allow lower level legendaries to drop also. So, instead of just seeing a level 60 legendary after a really, really long time, let's make it, you can see a few legendaries in that time, but only one of them is going to be level 60, for example, just by probability. And
that
I guess
makes sense.
It's just, if you like seeing that orange sort of, or green sort of drop, maybe that stimulates the brain a bit more, makes people have a bit more fun. But I guess the problem with that is, when you finally do find a legendary, you almost expect it to be really good. Now, if you're constantly, you have a bad luck run and you find 5 legendaries in a week and they're all sort of, level 45 sort of legendaries, you're probably going to be a bit upset about that. So I guess that's probably the issues they're looking at in terms of how do we sort of address drop rates for legendaries.
I definitely understand all that. As far as like the auction house part of it, I really think it is going to stabilize out at a certain level. Like, I don't think you're going to be able to get a 1200 DPS wind force for 100,000 in 2 years even. I mean, I think it's going to stabilize out to be expensive still, but without, so I think there's a balance, as you guys said, but I think the balance is still maybe a little too far to the other side. I don't know.
If you recall, before the patch, we had that big rumor that they were going to have a bind on equipped thing coming in. Like every 500 elite, you get a guaranteed legendary or something. Mm-hmm. And everyone's like, oh, that would be great, because they need to get some kind of binding. We had all these debates before the game. They kept saying they were going to have the highest level items were going to be bind on account or bind on equip, which would allow them to drop more, because then they leave the economy at some point.
Yep.
And they didn't put any bindings. That's why World of Warcraft has binding, everything really good binds. Mm. And so they have a trading economy in World of Warcraft, but it's mostly materials and other such things like that things you use for buffs that are short term. And that way you don't have all the best items forever building up. And they've decided not to do that in Diablo 3, and it's maybe something they should look into implementing.
I think a binding system is required for a game like this because, and when I say binding, I sort of refer to a bind on equipment, maybe even a soft binding system where you can actually unbind the items for a price, like a material price. But I think without binding system, you're going to constantly get these items never leaving the economy, and that's going to be a problem. I can't see how that is sustainable over the long term without resets, because these items are not going anywhere. there is no outflux for good items in the game. No one's going to scrap, an awesome Wind Force. So without a binding system, I think they're probably going to continue fighting an uphill battle, and I don't think they're going to sort of win that battle ever. With that said, we can't really...
Before the game, Bastiak said they were going to... Bastiak said before launch they were going to do this with patches and expansions would continually up the highest quality items.
Power, yeah.
So, if the double Wind Force comes out in 3 months, then everybody wants that instead, and the lower ones drop in value, and I guess you have to buff the monsters or something to match.
They've already done that with the Legacy title of them, right? So nobody buys the non-Legacy stuff now. Or they buy the non-Legacy.
The 300 spear for Magic Find Weapon or something.
Right.
But yeah, very few. Speaking of uniques, something I was noticing this week is, people have obviously pointed out many times the low-level uniques, legendaries suck. You don't have, chance guards and frostburns and mage fists and stuff that were actually useful in D2. Yep. At low levels, you could use them later. But the thing that really seems weird in D3 is, level 50 to 59 uniques are completely useless.
Yeah, they are.
Even 59s and 58s, they're never going to be as good as a 60. Even like a 60 or 61 rare is going to be better.
Yeah.
And 5,000 times more common.
Even when you're leveling up. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Even if you do happen to have one, you've saved it and twinking it, you can probably get a level 60 rare with reduced level requirement much more easily anyway.
Yep.
I was just going to say that, yeah. So there's no point to them whatsoever. Only point to levels 55 to 60 rares is to make you rage when you get them off of
That's right.
Act 3 mobs.
Yeah. And the 7 minutes you're in Act 3 hell before you level up to 60, it's like, oh, this is awesome. Oh, wait, no, it's not.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
And I guess what do you think they should do with that? Because I thought of this problem as well, and it's actually a very tough situation to address. Because on one hand, you have to have that sort of power, that increase in power as you level up, that sort of stuff. But how do you make, I guess, low-level legendaries just as useful or just slightly less useful than the best legendaries? With armor pieces, it's probably a lot easier because it's not DPS dependent. But I remember D2 sort of addressed this issue by allowing the Herodic Cube recipe to upgrade those low-level items into the next sort of tier above. So you could get Mage Fists and upgrade them to the sort of Inferno/Hell equivalent of them by upgrading them through the Herodic Cube. And that's a solution I sort of thought about, and I thought that would be a pretty good way of addressing it overall. But the problem is you'd have to sort of allow the stats to scale as well, because, who cares if you're getting a little bit of extra armor from upgrading it? You actually want to have the stats also be useful. So, what would you guys suggest is a good way of sort of addressing that problem?
I think two things. I think, number one, I wouldn't be surprised if at some point they remove or nerf the reduced level requirement stuff, because right now, there's no reason to not just use a 14 level requirement weapon and blast through 45 to 60 like that, obviously. So I wouldn't be surprised if they nerf that at some point to only be able to go 5 levels lower or something. And secondly, I think just putting plus XP things on more on gear could make people use lower level stuff more. Because look, a helmet with a gem in it, a gem slot in it, goes for so much more now. Helmets without gem slots now, due to the XP gem, are just worthless. So I think that could be a solution too.
So speaking of items, farming. How are you guys enjoying the farming in V104? We mentioned that a minute ago. As you were saying, it's fun to look, but are you actually finding? Have you been upgrading your gear, JrMint?
Yeah, I've actually found a couple legendary. No, I haven't. A couple upgrades. I got an amulet, a great amulet for my demon hunter. That was great. I've also found a ring. So I've definitely found some upgrades. I found a few shoulders on my barb. So I've definitely noticed the higher level stuff dropping more, or at least 61s and 62s rolling with higher stats, which is nice to see. And I've also made a big amount off of a dropped amulet too. So I definitely noticed the drops being better.
Same. I think the drops have been... I was quite lucky. I found 2 legendaries. Well, kind of unlucky because I've played for a lot, many hours and many elites. But the legendaries I found were pretty good. The first legendary I found was terrible, which was Gladiator Gauntlets 104 version. Still terrible, obviously.
Yeah, those are garbage.
And absolute garbage. But I found a really good mace the other day, which I linked to you, Flux. The the echoing Fury or whatever it is. That sort of, I got a good roll on that because that can range from like 500 to like 1300 DPS, and I ended up rolling like like high 1100s DPS one with crit damage, really high crit damage on it.
Wow, that's nice.
Yeah, so I sold that, and you know, I've just been basically buying stuff for my Demon Hunter with the proceeds of that. But yeah, I mean, again, like the funnest part, I guess, for me in 104 is the fact that now when you have, you know, a full inventory of rares, it's no longer just looking at the eye level and then just knowing that the item sucks, especially with weapons. Now it feels a lot more exciting, and that overall has made item drops quite fun for me. And powerful.
Yeah, speaking of item level, that's something I was going to just bring up on farming. As my Demon Hunter, all of her gear I've paid the iron price for, so it's a little harder to get up there. But she's now able to I'm able to farm Act 2 pretty well and survive in Act 3. And if I go back and do a run through Act 1, it seems ridiculously easy and totally pointless. It's like, oh look, another level 54 rare shoulders, you know, it's like, just, you know, idea just so I can sell it. Yeah, just everything. I remember when I was first just scratching and clawing, able to get into Inferno and survive a little, and like I was so excited with every drop. Like even like a 58 armor, you know, it's like, oh, this could be good. This could be a big upgrade. And once you get a little better stuff, then it's like it seems like, you know, every 20th item in Act 1 is level 62 or higher, and you know you just get much more of that. You know, once you get used to farming Act 2 or Act 3, you really can't go back to Act 1. It just feels like a waste of time.
That's definitely true. With the Paragon level thing now, though, the Act 1 XP is definitely higher. You know, if you just want to grind out for a while and, you know, hopefully you get a good drop. You know, the XP is definitely grinded the fastest in Act 1 because I know when I do Act 3, I can survive and farm it, but it's definitely a little slower going.
But you get to do the keep over and over again.
Oh, I do like doing the keep. The problem with doing the keep...
No, you don't. No one likes doing the keep.
I kind of do like doing it sometimes, but then a random Soul Ripper gets you and you freaking have to run back 8 miles to get back to where you were.
And the boss packs of trimmers are always fun.
Yes.
When they just go through the walls like in a tenth of a second, and they're 3 times faster than your foot speed. That's always great.
Oh, those are awesome.
I do find that funny how the game's so like sort of well balanced compared to Diablo 2, but then you have these like monsters, like every monster that runs fast, like those dune buggy things and those just all those sort of fast moving small monsters like the little spiders and all that. They're absolutely like 10 times harder than everything else. And I find it funny that the game's so well balanced, yet there's just that sort of small sort of glaring problem with balance with those elites.
There's certain mobs to certain classes that are just like so deadly, like those like Soul Rippers for Demon Hunters, and then like bees and stuff for barbarians, or things that just always were those damn fire mages. Oh my god! In Act 3 are just so annoying.
Yeah. Look, I think I wanted to sort of talk about the stuff that's, I guess, on the horizon for Diablo 3. That looks like they're sort of working on right now, and that's going to come in. As per Jay's apology post, there's a lot of, I guess, he sort of hinted a lot of things that they're sort of moving towards in the coming patches or patch. Difficulty was one thing they addressed, or he addressed in that thread. He also sort of hinted at a brand new type system that we're not even sure what could possibly be. It's related to sort of, you know, saying that the end game is not as, you know, the treasure hunt's not enough to sort of keep people occupied. So in addition to PvP, you know, we're looking at other things, and he kind of emphasised that as sort of, and a lot of speculation around the community is that there's a new type of sort of end game option available apart from PvP. So I would, you know, loving my theories the way I do, I would say that that's probably, if I was to guess what the most likely thing that could be, is something like a PvE sort of scenario mode where you can do, you know, all types of sort of mini things like, you know, an endless dungeon, just sort of gimmicky sort of gameplay, like almost like the events, sort of random event system in the game, but on a sort of bigger scale. So, you know, instead of running into these random world dungeons, it might be a sort of a new dungeon which is the same every time, or it sort of, you know, has randomized in terrain, but the objective, it has like a specific objective. And that's the type of gameplay I'm picturing if they are going to add something in the end game apart from PvP. Do you guys have any theories on what that could be? This new system that might exist?
I have no idea. I mean, I wonder. I mean, in the because D2 obviously came out pre-World of Warcraft. I mean, in this post-World of Warcraft era, with people understanding the way, you know, used to Blizzard as World of Warcraft. I just wonder if they are going to do content updates. I mean, just an additional dungeon or two. I mean, just because that's what people are used to from Blizzard now, and that's just what they expect. Even with Guild Wars 2 being free to play at $60, after the $60, I just wonder if something like that is going to pressure them in to throwing in a little content update every 6 months or something. I don't know. Not just a rehashed dungeon, but something completely new.
Yeah.
Well, the most common suggestion forever before game was an endless dungeon, a bottomless dungeon, where you could just keep going forever, and it would, once you died or whatever, it would reset, or you'd go back to the start. And people would be, you'd get harder and harder as you went, and more elite packs, etc. And people also are very fond of tower defense type stuff, something like the Jar of Souls, but with, dangerous monsters. Oh. And those seem like it wouldn't be that hard to do. I mean, there are various events that do that.
Yeah.
There were a bunch more events. I remember back to BlizzCon 2009 when they had Act 2 debuted, and there were so many different quests and missions in the desert area that don't exist anymore. You had to help some guy haul up a cargo, a chest from one of those mines, and 100 fallen would come screaming over this little corridor towards you.
That'd be
and
cool.
You just had to hold. Yeah, you had to. It was kind of like those stupid quests in Act 3 with the raising the catapult thing, but actually interesting.
Yeah.
But there were just there were more missions that kind of changed the gameplay style in ways that I don't see in the final game, and it seems like it's more. They talked about that forever. They want things that change the gameplay and mix up the style of it.
Yeah.
Well, Act 2 is the Desolate Sands. Isn't Desolate Sands supposed to have a random dungeon that can spawn, 1 of 10 random dungeons? And all the times I've been farming Vault of Assassins, I've never seen that once. When I was leveling, I found it a couple times, but it's so rare to see one of those. Maybe I'm thinking of something else, but do you guys know what I'm talking about?
There's a worm, that worm that spawns, and he turns into a dungeon when you kill him.
Yeah, there's the worm. I thought there was another dungeon that was supposed to randomly...
There's another cave you can get in there, too.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I just got that yesterday, actually.
Right.
Looking for the Vault of the Assassin, and I found that.
Yeah.
Speaking of Vault of the Assassin, what do you think about the nerf to Trail of Cinders?
Ooh,
yeah. I actually hadn't even been using it.
Hey, here's a really cool skill we put in 104. It's totally overpowered, but it gives you a really different playstyle. You can use Vault to lay down this meteor trail, this blaze trail. No, you can't. Going away.
Not only is it going away, but it's becoming absolutely useless, almost.
Yeah, going back to 300% aim. They could at least have left it at 650 or something like that.
The smoke screen runes 700%, and I use that. I actually really enjoy that. I would have thought Trail of Cinders would have that. They'll nerf it just to about that much, not anymore.
You texted me about that, and I said we should call that a cold fix as opposed to a hot fix. And so that's just another sign of why Jay Wilson hates us all and wants us to die.
Have you guys used the twin chakrams at all since patch? Those things destroy, man. They only do 114% weapon damage, but they can hit big mobs so fast and so much. It does insane damage.
It's my primary spell.
Did you use that before the patch?
I wasn't using it pre-patch, and they didn't buff it all that much, so I think I should have, but it's so good.
Yeah, I used it a bunch, long ago, but then I quit using it because it doesn't work very well in corridors, and it's hard to... I enjoyed other things a little more.
In Act 3, killing those scorpions, those packs of scorpions and all the skeletons, it's insane.
We're talking about random skills. I've been playing a witch doctor lately, and he's he's in a nightmare now, and Plague of Locusts, whatever it's called, Locust Swarm, is so cool.
Is it good?
I got the Jar of Souls and Nightmare, and I'm a little overgeared with Twinks on this character, so it's kind of bullshit, but I literally, a single cast of that killed every single skeleton for the last 40 seconds of the Jar of Souls quest. I just stood in the middle and watched it, and it just changed everything near it. Literally, there's 25 skeletons on the screen, all have this cloud of green around them, and all their health is doing like monsters do when you put the Rend on them now with the Barbarian, where they're just this countdown, like a reverse jackpot of hit points. And you just watch them die. It was really quite awesome. I'm sure it's useless by Inferno, but it's a hell of a lot of fun in Nightmare.
Yeah, I'm going to have to try that. I'm leveling a Witch Doctor also.
Okay, are you off, Azzure?
Yeah, I got to go. Father's Day, unfortunately.
All right, take it easy, man.
All right, see you guys.
Farewell, Azzure, and enjoy your dingo. And Xanth is our new guest, and good day.
Ahoy, hoy, mate.
That's still bad. Worse than mine. Okay, Xanth is our hardcore expert columnist, and you've been Paragoning it up. I think you got a level 8 Paragon hardcore now?
Actually level 10 now.
Hey, and what kind of tell our eager listeners how you have survived so long.
Careful farming of all the stuff I know that won't kill me. It's kind of lame, but that's what I've been sticking with.
So lots of Sarkoth runs. No, you're doing a little braver than that, I hope.
No, just full Act 1, and then with the new patch, it's been a lot easier to kind of go into the new content. So I've been kind of ticking around Act 2, which is, still a little more difficult, but for the most part, it's been a lot easier.
And what class are you playing?
A Witch Doctor.
And you played Witch Doctors. We were talking online the other day. You played Witch Doctors before they were good.
Yeah.
I mean, you actually had a 60 Witch Doctor like the first week of the game almost, hardcore.
Yeah, the first character I got to 60 was a Witch Doctor. The first character outside of the softcore 1 through 10 that I made was a Witch Doctor. So it's been a class that I've really, really enjoyed, and then it seems to only get better right now.
And now you can actually kill stuff without using this Vision Quest and Grizzly Bears. So
I mean, that's still pretty fun, but it's nice to be able to use a different skill.
And what's your highest level hardcore, JrMint?
Oh, I have actually, you're going to be impressed, made it all the way to 16 with a monk. So you better watch out.
Well, you're pretty close to there.
That's not 16 Paragon, listeners. That is 16 softcore.
Well, congrats. So, speaking of Paragon levels, one thing that it seems like this has really caused people to just play the same character over and over again. What is your highest... We all have one major Paragon character, I think, probably. What is the highest Paragon level of your second character, Xanth?
0 at the moment.
How about you, JrMint?
My second is my Barb, and it's level 3.5 or so.
And what's your main? Is your Demon Hunter?
My main Demon Hunter is a 9, almost 10. So.
Well, you've got it. So your second's 3.5. That's more than most people.
Yeah.
I think my DH is 8 now, and I've got a Wizard and a Barb who are both level 1, just barely. I've got like 2 hours each on those two, just to try out some of the new 104 stuff.
Yeah.
And it seems like that was the case a lot even before 104. Is people seem to have one main character. Probably because it's just so hard to gear up. You really can't get enough gear to have 2 characters unless you're just like super auction house man.
Well, I had all but given up my Demon Hunter pre 1.04 and put a lot of time into my Barb, getting him up to Act 3 in Inferno, and then this just kind of reinvigorated my Demon Hunter, which was a nice welcome.
And are you mostly just doing one character at a time, Xanth?
I originally kind of like set out to get 60s of everything in hardcore, and I have a monk. That's 60, a barbarian that's 51, and then my witch doctor, and you hit those hiccups where a character dies, and you immediately kind of want to get right back to 60 on that. So that kind of slowed down my thought process of getting all the classes to 60. So now that my witch doctor I think died, what was it? A week before 1.04, so I just a mad rush that week to get them back up to 60 for the new patch, and as a result, when the patch hit, I just have been putting all my time back into the Witch Doctor, and I think today was the first time that I even went back and tried any of the other classes in 1.04 because I had been so squarely focused on that one.
And do you think the Paragon level is sort of encouraging that? I mean, you feel like you're wasting time with somebody else, or you just have one character that's got the really good gear and the best magic find, etc.?
I think, in some respects, especially for hardcore, too, as you are pushing forward and, it's going to be a bigger loss if they're gone kind of thing. I feel very devoted to the one character that I have, and I do like the little, building up a little bit, even if it's marginal on stats, to make me want to push forward, and clear Inferno with them. And also for me, I think I just enjoy that class a lot more, too, because I have been with it for so long that I haven't really wanted to stray as much.
Did you guys have the same experience in D2? I mean, it seems like everybody had many different classes and builds in D2, and it's not like in D3 people play like World of Warcraft, where you have one main and then some alts. Did you guys even play D2, JrMint?
I did not play D2. Please do not.
Okay, get off the podcast.
Please, listeners, do not kill me.
How about you, Xanth?
I started out with a necromancer and a barbarian, mainly in the original. And then once Druid came out, that was like my go-to class. That was the one I really, really enjoyed. So I kind of do have the same mindset in D2 and D3 that like once I've found that class that really just kind of suits the my play style, that's what I'll stick with. But I would, every now and then I'd group up with somebody and they'd be doing something really cool and be like, wow, I want to be doing that. and then I would go and venture in. I think Assassin was another one of those classes that I saw somebody else do something. I'm like, whoa, that was awesome. I want to be doing that. So it hasn't happened too much in D3 where I've been like, wow, that'd be really cool. So I'm still, like I said, at the moment, just kind of sticking with the class that I just really enjoy playing.
Okay, you're both heretics. Okay, another Paragon question. How do you feel about the leveling speed? People seem like, the first one's pretty quick, and then it gets much, much slower after like 5. Do you think it should be a little faster? Do you think there should be more ways to add it, like experience from quests or more experience equipment, or are you okay with the speed, JrMint?
I think, 1 through 10, I think felt good. Just like I said about level 10, and 5 through 10 definitely felt quite a bit slower than 1 through 5, especially here at the top end of 1 through 10. And then you look at that chart, and that's 1.3% of the total thing. And I know they want this to take, I guess, years or something to get through, or at least a year for an active player. And that's fine and all, but I don't think many people, I'd say the majority of the population isn't even going to get to, or the majority of the player base isn't even going to get to level 15, which is fine. I have friends that just kind of casually play, and they're like level 2, and that's fine, I guess. If you're hardcore, you're going to go hardcore at it, and if you're not, you're not. But I don't know. I think, having 20 million per level is like almost enough. You still have to go 100 levels. So it's not like they're making it easy on you. So I don't know. That's kind of how I feel about it.
What do you think, Xanth?
Yeah, I guess I can see that. I can imagine, only being 10, and it does start to slow down a bit. That let's say hypothetically you eventually get to 50 or whatever it may be, then it's going to be progressing so slowly. It's almost going to be like there's nothing happening at all, and then you go back to kind of the whole dilemma that was there, before they introduced the Paragon system. So it is a slow process, but at the same time, you look at the way the game was before the Paragon system, and you had so many, exploits available to kind of level you up very quickly, and, all that kind of stuff that, if it was there, I feel like then the Paragon system would become, again, just another very quick rush to get as quickly as you could in as little time as possible. So in some respects, I do kind of like that it will take a really, really long time, because it will kind of prevent those kind of things. But at the same time, I totally do see that after a certain point, it's going to be going so slowly that it really is going to seem like you're not progressing in any manner.
So, 2-part question. So, in 6 months, you've got a level 55 Paragon or something, hardcore, good luck with that. But, just hypothetically, then, and your other characters are, Paragon 3. Will you even want to play it? It's like I'm giving up 150% magic find and gold find by not playing this character. It'll seem like you're like handicapping yourself almost.
Yeah.
And leading from that question, I saw a suggestion on the forums: should they make Paragon levels account wide like Artisans?
I am surprised they haven't made it account wide. I've seen people say on forums it's just really taking away from playing alts. It's like punishing you for playing alts, or like I'm leveling a low level a little bit now and then, and it's like, damn, this time I'm spending could be getting 5 bars to the next level on my Demon Hunter. But no, I don't know. It's just, it makes you feel that if you're not on your main almost, then you're wasting time. And I don't think I don't know why they wanted to go for that. It's going to take long enough anyway. Why would you want people to feel that way?
I guess I would maybe disagree a little bit in that regard. Thinking of it from the hardcore perspective, then I guess death even has a larger meaning. If you immediately, if you die and then you get back to 60 and you're immediately back up to level 50, or 55 or whatever, it kind of cheapens the system that they've put into place, and then, it takes away, a lot of the sting of losing that kind of high-level character as well.
Maybe make the rules different for hardcore then, and make, softcore account wide and hardcore not. That's what people in hardcore want.
Right.
I mentioned the jump in power. If it was account wide, your character's level 59,
right,
and they suck. And then I get one more level, and suddenly I have 190% magic find just by default. It's like, okay, then I guess I win.
Yeah, that is a good way to look at it.
I don't think they should do it account wide. It's a character level. It's basically now characters go to level 160, and then after level 60, you start gaining magic find per level up. I mean, it's just they just added 100 levels of grind for character. You know, you didn't get to level 80 in Diablo 2, and then all your experience went into some pool for your whole account after that. You know.
Right.
I can certainly see the complaints, and I'm feeling that myself. I mean, my Demon Hunter is only like 8, and it seems like a waste to play somebody else. I'm giving up 24% Magic Find or something, you know, which is nothing. So imagine when they're level 70 or something like that. But
at the same time, at least by playing one main most of the time, you're going to find upgrades for your alt. So at least even though if they're level 2 or 3, you'll be able to outfit them with some nice stuff probably just from grinding the main one.
Yeah, that's been my practice.
Yep.
Yeah. And the other suggestions I've seen, maybe they could make it a little faster for your second character over 60. You know, like they have a 50% bonus to experience or something, which seems kind of janky. It's like the rich getting richer, I guess. But I mean, that does make it. It just seems like will you level up 2 characters to high level Paragon? I mean, if you have like a million years to play, but
not to go off on a tangent, but I really wonder how this Paragon thing is going to factor in with PvP. I mean, you're only getting 3 to your primary stat each time you level. But I mean, a level 50 Paragon is still going to have 150 more dex than somebody with 1. And I mean, that's going to be somewhat of an upgrade in PvP. Maybe the PvP just won't figure into Paragon stats.
Yeah, I think it should probably just do flat, whatever your base level 60 is.
You know, as we're kind of talking about it, you know, what about maybe a system where as you progress with Paragon levels, instead of immediately allocating them to to the character that you earned it with, that you could possibly gift it to another 60 that you have. So that way, maybe you could, I guess, almost incentivize giving or having a different character that, you know, might eventually get onto the same level as a different one if you wanted to switch it up. I'm not, you know, a programmer or anything like that, but
that's a good idea.
A sort of related question about we were talking about magic item finding a little earlier with what's his face, Azzure. That's something I didn't mention. Finding jewelry. Am I the only one who just finds it vastly more difficult to find a goddamn rare amulet, especially amulets, but rings as well, as compared to every other kind of item type?
I'm actually convinced at the moment. I mean, I find jewelry here and there, and actually some of the best things I've found have been rings and amulets for obviously classes that aren't me. But I'm almost convinced that the only thing my witch doctor can find are crossbows, one-handed bows, and quivers. And I'm actually contemplating just creating a demon hunter so I can find gear for my witch doctor.
Don't get me started on one-hand crossbows. I think I said this to my friend the other day. I think one-hand crossbows have a higher chance of being a crap item when they're identified than any other item in the game. I swear I've never seen like a single good identified rare crossbow. One hand.
If you could get, instead of Paragon levels giving you MF and GF, if you get it to a jewelry find, would you take that instead?
Yes.
Because I remember playing. I just never find amulets. It seems like, and the thing that's annoying me is you find like 100 belts an hour, and belts look like jewelry when you're looking at it in your, you know, especially if it's a rare and it's just got a question mark and it's a 1-by-1 object. It's like, ooh, I got a ring, I forgot. No, another belt. Usually a barbarian belt.
Yes, always.
And of course, the fact they have no crafting recipes either. So I mean, I have so few decent jewelries. I would actually craft them. I don't craft anything else lately. But I would actually craft level 60 amulets or rings. That would be worth, you know, dropping 45k and some materials on. It
is ironic that the jeweler can't do that.
Yeah, he can't do a goddamn thing. Have either of you guys ever found a jeweler plan?
I found my first one the other day, actually. It was a flawless star topaz. Sold it for 400k. I was pretty happy with that.
You know, only 9 to go for the achievement.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never found one. Have you ever found one?
No, I saw somebody advertising one in trade, but I was like, I would buy it if I would ever use it. So it didn't make any sense to me.
Quick pro tip to the listeners: they do drop as that new light blue color that like potions and whatnot are. So make sure you don't vendor one when you're vendoring off your blues and stuff. You know, keep an eye out for that.
I found tons of blacksmith plans, but always the same like 3. You
know? The 4-prop
that one 4-socket chest armor, I've got about 50 of those so far. It's like a plot.
I don't even pick them up anymore.
Yeah, I always forget which ones I have, and I think it's Exalted something. I know it when I see it. I'm like, oh shit, that one again?
I've never found a 5-property plan ever.
And the jewelry ones, it's crazy because there literally is an achievement if you find 10 of those. And you know, there's only 12 possible, right? Because there's 4 gems times 3 levels. Right. And you know, between the three of us, we found one history. I mean, I just
That's
don't.
ridiculous.
I think that's probably one of the less likely achievements we'll be seeing. Okay, I've bitched about jewelry now. Other item thing, crafting improvements. How do you guys foot the crafting system? Are you bothering to craft stuff at high levels, JrMint?
Not at all. I mean, I had my friend make some 62 gloves for me the other day for 80K, and obviously they were garbage, and that's the last time I've done it. I've watched YouTube videos. Somebody made like 20 straight of the high level 63 bracers, and not a single one was good. It's just silly. I've seen mentioned on forums, I don't know if this is like the most common thing mentioned, is, you know, being able to combine all your bad rares, you know, and then be able to build a good rare out of that, you know, and have it guaranteed to be good. I don't know, that made a lot of sense to me.
Throw in some jewels and a fiery topaz or
Yeah,
something.
exactly, something like that.
Two fiery brimstones and that. How much were those bracers on that YouTube video? Do you recall the cost?
80K each time.
And he made how many?
At least 20. It may have been more. He filled up his entire bag, and there was a couple decent ones, but none that, you know, had a combination of crit damage, you know, any really good ones.
And how long would you think you have to play to find 20, you know, level 61 and above bracers, rares?
Yeah, I mean, in a typical farm run of Vault of Assassins and the like, you know, you get 10 rares, or 10 to 20, and, I mean, you'll probably find one good item in there, and then you're getting XP and whatnot, you know, so like you say, like the point you're making here, I think, it's just much more better use of your time and resources to do it that way.
Well, I think one of the things mentioned in Jay's apology post, you know, the teasing of new features, said crafting improvements and overhauls.
They've said that before.
And yeah, well, they said a lot of things before. But this time they mean it.
Yes, we promise.
I don't think anyone's so what would you change about crafting? You know, you have your magic wand, you can wave it and change what you want, your Bobby. I mean, lowered prices, more materials, better chance of getting stuff you want, all of the above?
I mean, if they just made it like 10K to craft something, then probably people would be fine with doing it, because then you can play the gamble game. But when you make it almost 100K to craft something and it could just be garbage, it's more likely to be garbage than anything else, then people just aren't going to want to do that. Even if they kept it the same and dropped it to 10K, I think way more people would do it.
And they've made so many improvements to item drops. You can find so many rares so quickly.
Right.
It's crazy to spend, you know, 80 or 100K in materials on a craft when you can just go play and get experience and Paragon level.
Yeah.
And get 25 rares in 20 minutes.
And, well, when you look at it, too, like with weapons, you know, is there really a point to have somebody crafting you a weapon when now 61 through 63 are all viable with the right rolls?
Right.
You know, like, I have a much higher chance of finding a decent weapon in a game than somebody crafting it. And I'll spend less money.
Is 0 higher than 0%?
Have you ever ID'd a good one-hand crossbow that sold for anything?
No. Most of the time I just sell them and, you know, make 1,000 gold, whatever. But
what is your minimum requirement for good, JrMint, since you're saying it?
I don't know. I mean, you look at one-hand swords, right? And like an 800 damage one-hand sword with, you know, some decent stats will sell. If you get an 800 damage one-hand crossbow, it's not going to sell, period. I mean, even if it has good stats, like crit damage, socket, everything like that, I mean, I don't know. I'm just kind of on a tangent about one-hand crossbows, I'm sorry.
Well, I think it's pigeonholed to a certain class, though. I mean, if you have a decent sword, a lot of classes can use it, whereas a decent one-hand crossbow, you're looking squarely at demon hunters, and that's it.
And the problem is you can use quivers with two-handed bows,
right.
So there's really no reason to use a one-handed crossbow unless you want to go dual wield or use a shield, and that's not what most people are doing. Because, of course, then you need two good one-handed crossbows. So
technically you can use a quiver with that, but yeah, it's not obvious.
Yeah, but why would you use a quiver with a one-handed crossbow? You can use a quiver with a two-handed. You know, I mean, it's a little faster firing rate, I guess, but you can easily get a 1200 bow.
Yeah.
You know, and it's hard to get a 900 quiver. I mean, 900 one-handed X-bow.
900, yeah.
I did a 930 or something the other day, but it had shit stats. I think it had 234 intelligence on it, something like that. Like, that'll come in handy. My wizard will love it.
Even things like that, just to touch on, you know, item rolls, I don't understand why, class-specific pieces like cloaks for demon hunters, belts for barbs, why can those roll stats that are terrible for it. I understand random is random, but it's not hard to program to say, hey, if a cloak drops, it's going to have plus discipline and dexterity on it, and then the rest is random. I mean, I don't know. It's just little things like that just seem to be overlooked.
Well, it was kind of like the same thing with the old Legendaries. I remember I found an Immortal King's Helm, and it wasn't great by any means, but it had, like, the main stat on it was intelligence. Like, why would that be there?
Exactly. It's just, and it's just vendored, and that's a legendary. It's like, goodness, I'd be so mad.
Well, I mean, that was back, obviously, too, when you picked up a Legendary, you knew it was going to suck. But I just found it comical how much that actually sucked.
And I know the detractors will say random is random, but...
The only Legendary or set that I'm using at all is still my best pair of pants I've ever found, and it's Blackthorn's Breeches, which was pre-104. And so there were a few. I mean, like the one in the helm was good. I forget the stats, but mine got the random rolls. I got like 40% res all and 90 and plus 90 strength. So they both, it's one of the very few good set items, and I got a 99% high quality random on the random rolls. And if they'd rolled with plus 10 intelligence and arcane resistance, it would have been a piece of crap. But that was the challenge, and it remains the challenge, sadly enough. We asked Azzure this earlier, Xanth. Have you found how your item finds in 104, and have you found any legendaries that are useful?
I found one legendary through Paragon 1 through 10, and it was a two-handed bow. I think it was like Hellrack, if I recall. Obviously not usable by me. I think I sold it for like $2 million, maybe. It wasn't a great roll by any means, but I have actually found 2 upgrades. Since, one of the first drops I found was just a new set of shoulders that were by far better than what I had on. But aside from that, I've mainly just found stuff that I was able to sell and just kind of build up my income, so maybe I can buy something that would actually be usable. I do think I am getting better stuff now, though.
Or more stuff, or better stuff, or both?
Maybe a little bit of both. I'm definitely, less blues, more rares, which, they had promised us. And then, slowly going through and IDing everything. Maybe once every 2 runs, I'll find something that's decent.
Do you recall who dropped, or what kind of monster dropped the legendary you found? Was it a boss or a regular?
I killed them all so quickly I didn't even notice. One in the Festering Woods, in one of the 2 little instances that you can go into. It's like Hall of Fallen Heroes or something like that. And like I said, I killed them all so quickly, but there is a rare in there. Actually, every legendary I found, though, has not came off of a champion or a boss. It's came off of just random white mob.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Yeah.
Yeah, because I found 3 legendary 60 or higher in the patch, and all 3 were from regular monsters, which is funny how that works.
Speaking of you said the Hellrack, it made me think of that Manicore 2-hand crossbow too. Did you see that thing can roll now with 2 sockets? That'd be insane to find.
Oh, yeah, I've never seen that. That would be, again, not a demon hunter, but that would be awesome.
Yeah, even if you saw that.
Think how much you could sell it for.
Yeah, I bet you could get $250 for that, man.
Not hardcore.
Not hardcore, right. Forgot that.
That is one thing I've wondered about when we were talking about item improvements before 104. Why don't they have like 4-socket helms? Just some. You could get much higher numbers of sockets. Some unique that had like 3 stats and 3 sockets or something, just to make it very different and very customizable. It's not going to be an easy thing to do, but maybe in 105.
Maybe.
And all the tests people have done and videos and stuff seem to prove that those procs they added, like where they can summon mobs or do whatever, are definitely fun, but they don't really do considerable damage that's really worth anything. I know the one thing I was really looking forward to was those firewalkers that can do the Molten effect, and everything I'm hearing is the only thing that's good for is breaking barrels without having to actually hit them. You just run over them and they break, and that's all they're good for.
Oh, well, I've been waiting for that. So
yeah.
That'll come in handy. It's so hard. It's such a, there's so few skills that can break barrels easily. There's not really any AoE attacks in the game, so it's not going to put something in. Okay, one other topic I wanted to bring up here is I've seen some people talking about they should have hard caps for some more stats in the game, especially Res All was something that people have been arguing for. And the theory with that is kind of like the Magic Find hard cap, where, by putting in a hard cap of 300%, therefore at some point you can stop trying to get Magic Find on every piece of equipment and get other stats. And obviously Diablo 2 had effectively a hard cap on resistances, in that they had percentages, and once you got to 75% or a little higher with specialized equipment, you could do more. You generally didn't need to get 400% resistance to lightning in Diablo 2. There was no reason to, so you didn't spend every single piece of equipment trying to get more resistance. Whereas in Diablo 3, it's like if you find a rare piece of armor that doesn't have Res-All, do you even use it? I mean, maybe on like a monk with one with everything kind of thing,
Right.
but generally speaking, it's almost a mandatory stat, and that seems like it's really limiting the variety of equipment you can use, especially on armor. What do you guys think about some
Are we
concept
kind
like
of
that?
going down like a very slippery slope then? I mean, if we're not gonna, stack res and eventually not magic find, gold find, then that really just kind of leaves us with our main, vitality and, for myself, intelligence. Like, then aren't we even more pigeonholed into what we want on gear?
Possibly.
I think two things about Res-All. First of all, manning a Demon Hunter or any range class, I've stopped kind of caring about it. I mean, I feel like I'm going to die in 2 to 3 hits as a Demon Hunter, regardless of if I have 200 or 500 Res-All. I mean, maybe I'll take one more hit, but I mean, you die so fast, especially in Act 3. I mean, you're going to die so fast as a range class anyway, so I don't think it matters so much on those. As far as my Barb's Res-All, I would like to get to a higher level. I'd like to get like at least 800 on everything, which I don't have yet, but there's really big diminishing returns on Res-All, too, that I found at the higher levels. Like, the difference between 600 and 800 Res-All is much more than 800 and 1,000, I think. It really starts to slow down the percentage that it reduces, I've found.
Right. I think my monk is, with his mantras at 800 Res-All, and my witch doctor right now with gear is at 700. For me, I don't know, like I need to have resistance because, I don't have the opportunity
I totally
to die. So it becomes a much more important stat, I think, in hardcore. I guess I think, maybe from the softcore perspective, I can see where it's important, but I think I would imagine people could get by, like you had said, with 200 to 500 and maybe, give it up on gear. And, would they need a cap? Especially, with the Paragon levels, and, decreasing monster health and stuff like that in multiplayer games, I can't imagine that it would be too bad.
Well, if you recall, shortly after launch, they basically capped IAS, increased attack stuff. I mean, they didn't cap it, but they made it much less effective on some items, and, you got a certain amount, it didn't really do you any more good. And their justification was that they wanted to ruin the game for people who liked playing shooting fast. No, actually. That was what people complained. Their justification was that everybody was doing nothing but trying to get IAS because it was by far the best stat. And they don't want one stat that totally blows everything else out of the water.
So they prefer 2, crit damage and crit chance? Okay.
Right.
Yes, exactly. That's all that matters now. But you wonder, that's just the same logic with Res-All, is if you have a piece of armor that's awesome stats and doesn't have any resistance, you're like, can't use this. And maybe you can with some classes or something, but it seems like that was the thought of there's more of a diminishing returns, and obviously they did have a cap on it in Diablo 2, so they changed that and it's worse, like everything else in the game. But you guys apparently aren't a big fan of that.
I just don't think it's needed. I mean, I think people cap themselves. One of my best friends plays a monk, and he has now over 1,000 resist all. He's just completely addicted to it, to resist all. Like, he's always just on the action house looking for it. And it's just, I think he has plenty. It's like, start stacking some offensive stats, man. So I think people cap themselves.
And I'm guessing he didn't pay. Did he pay the iron price for any of his equipment?
Oh, yeah. He's definitely has found... This guy, he's going to listen to this and give me crap, but he plays like a fifth of the time as me and gets so many more drops and finds so many more deals on the auction house. It's hilarious. Me and our other friends are always like, oh, my God, I can't believe he's gotten these things. But I guess that's the way it goes.
Since you came on late, Xanth, you didn't really get to talk about your general appraisal of 104. I'm assuming you like it because you've been playing, you got a level 10 Paragon. You've obviously been putting some time in. You're happy with the changes?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I was apprehensive, especially from the Witch Doctor perspective, coming in and seeing, a huge amount of changes to the class that basically kind of, it ended up opening it up. And I don't think you really see that at first when you just see, the build I've been using is getting destroyed. But it was actually kind of fun to go in and start playing with all these skills that I had never used, or hadn't used, and since level 14 or whatever when I got them, like using corpse spiders. Apparently that's a skill and you can use it, instead of just splinters and zombie bears the whole time. So I've been liking it a lot. I find myself logging in more, putting off stuff I should be doing to play, but it's very fun. I mean, and that sense of progression, even if it is very minute, coming in, looking for items, and at the same time progressing slowly is cool. I mean, I think it's a great biding time feature. I don't think it's the end all be all, but I think for right now, for where we have how many months until they finally decide on to introduce PvP or whatever, I think it's a great little addition. And then, I mean, one of the big reasons I'm logging in is to try and find legendaries too. I mean, I know it's a huge shot in the dark to try and find something that not only will cater to my character, but also be good, and I'll find it. But, sometimes it's that same reason you would go in D2 and run meth for 2 or 3 hours, on the hope that you maybe find something that's good. And there are many nights that I logged out and didn't. And it's kind of the same thing. I guess like capturing that feeling again in D3 was really cool.
And your main is a witch doctor. Somehow that was the main class talked about the last 2 podcasts, even though I haven't played one hardly at all. I've been playing a little bit, actually. I got it to level 30 or something lately. But it's very easy because I'm all twink, so it's kind of not even really playing it. I'm just sort of running through and killing things easily.
Right, you had mentioned you were just sitting back and letting your pets do all the work.
Yeah, pets and swarm of locusts. Just kill everything with that. It's fun just to watch it spread. It's like gonorrhea through a fraternity. Xanth, you've been playing so Witch Doctor again. I mean, we hate to keep bringing it up because nobody cares, but it's it was the hands down winner of most needs improvement and most got improvement. And have you tried new builds? Did you change up new skills? Obviously, you had to with Vision Quest changes, but I mean, have you experimented and enjoyed it?
I don't think I have zombie bears on my bar right now, which is a huge change. I think there's only a handful of skills that I kept. I mean, obviously, the passive Spirit Vessel that will revive you if you die, that was kind of a given. I had to keep that, but going through and actually using zombie dogs now, I like the dogs because they'll proc life on hit, and then also 3 of them can maybe go and distract a couple more things as opposed to the Gargantuan, which will maybe only take on 1. So like being able to use pets again is great. Do they still die? Of course, but it's really opened up the viability of the class. I still think it lacks some burst like damage that a lot of the other classes do have, but for hardcore especially, I feel like I have a lot more durability going in, and like after 1.04 came out, I was actually going into Act 2, and as I said, it's a little more difficult, but I felt more confident in what I was able to do. And I actually feel, comfortable progressing a little bit more, because it is a huge risk, especially now at level 10, Paragon level, to kind of go into an unknown territory. But I definitely do feel much more comfortable with the Witch Doctor now than with, the Vision Quest build, because I was having Spirit Vessel proc, like, I don't know, 1 or 2 times per run, just because you get overwhelmed and you can't handle that. You just spam your bears, and if they hit you too many times, you're dead, and just try and get out of there. I've had Spirit Vessel proc once since 1.04 came out, and that was just due to me kind of lagging a little bit and being in the wrong spot. But it's definitely changed the way I play.
And for non-hardcore Witch Doctor, Spirit Vessel is a passive that gives you automatic Spirit Walk if you get below, 15%?
No, it's actually when you die. So when you would have normally been killed or have been dealt the killing blow, you'll go into the Spirit Realm for... It went down from 3 seconds to 2 seconds, but come back at 15% health and 15% mana. And then it's usually enough time for you to get out of there spam a potion or whatever need be, and hopefully stay alive.
So if you take a really big hit, though, it won't just like kill you, summon Spirit Walk, and then that same hit kill the revived guy too, right? It would just,
no. It so like you're in like a huge. You got walled in. You killed a whole bunch of molten guys, and they're just about to blow. That first pop, if it kills you, now you're in Spirit Walk and you can get out of there. 2 seconds is a little short, and if you're walled in, maybe you might not make it out if there's a couple others that are going to blow up in your face, but for the most part, it's more than enough time to get out of there. If your pets will still be up and stuff like that, so if they're still alive, they can be a distraction, and you can flee to safety. And then there's it's a 90-second cooldown before it can proc again. So
okay.
It's actually very, like I said, it's a nice skill to have. It saved my butt a couple of times. And then obviously the monk has something similar as well, which probably explains why it's my other surviving hardcore class.
Have you played much monk in 104? We cruelly missed him entirely last week, and the 3 people who play monk were very pissed about that. Can you say something exciting about the class?
I can't. I mean, I logged in today and tried him out a little bit, and it really feels like nothing's changed. I played with all the new stuff, and I even put 7-sided strike on there, and it didn't feel like anything had changed. I felt like I should just stick with what I had been doing. After playing a Witch Doctor for a while, I felt like I was a little more durable. I can say that, but I don't know. It didn't seem. I wasn't enticed to stay playing with the character for much longer. I'll keep him there, but I wasn't, I'm not clamoring to go back and play my monk right now.
So same thing to you, JrMint, just in general. Are there any character skill changes that you're now using constantly, or are you just playing more because the drop rates are better?
The one, as I mentioned, is Twin Chakrams that I just absolutely love. I've switched it out a couple times and just missed it, and I don't see that coming off as my secondary ever again, to be honest. It's really, really good. Additionally to that, I've started using Stampede, the rune with Rain of Vengeance. I think that's really, really good as a demon hunter. I use that as honestly like a defensive thing. Whenever an elite enemy pops, especially if it's something tough, I'll hit that and it's gonna tank the elite for a good few seconds. 5 to 10 seconds before they can even get to me. Just tank them and essentially keep knocking them back, and not be able to get to me. So those are 2 that weren't on my bar at all before, and now are definitely a big part of my rotation, and I recommend to any demon hunter. Oh, and also Entangling Shot with the lightning rune. I can't remember the name of it. Actually does really nice damage too. If you want to slow something down, I like that ability a lot.
Yeah, Stampede I thought was a mandatory. I've had that forever. They didn't really improve. I mean, I guess they buffed the damage a little bit. But like you said,
it was pretty nice.
I mostly just use it for the defense. Yeah. It just knocks stuff back, and you just stand there and bang away. I guess you can twin chakram away while you.
Yeah, and I mean, people must not have been using it because they buffed it, and I think they were buffing abilities people weren't using. So hopefully that finds it on the people's bars because it's very nice. Just really quick, wanted to see if you guys had any thoughts on Jay Wilson and the former Blizzard North developer going at each other on Facebook. I thought that was kind of amusing.
Well, we made snarky comments about it on the podcast last week, but yeah, it's not really
nothing than that.
A huge topic for discussion. I actually kind of defended Jay in the forums. People said I was wrong, but I thought it was stupid what he said, but I liked that he said something that was controversial. Obviously, they kind of admitted they thought it was a private Facebook page and nobody else could see.
It's Facebook. It's nothing's private.
Right.
Including vacation photos.
Right.
But yeah.
Definitely surprised when I saw it, but I guess I was just surprised that he would even comment on it in some regards, because he hasn't said anything about anything in a long time.
Not publicly. He thought. I'm sure he comments privately all the time. We just don't.
I would love to see those actually.
Yeah, well, Blizzard PR doesn't like that. It makes Bobby's little golden eyes gleam. So
yeah, I don't know. I thought the comment that was really funny though was one of the people mentioning the site saying they're paragons of
objectivity.
That's it. Yeah.
I think it was.
I just thought that was funny. I don't know.
Yeah, Ellie's had that as her tagline on IM for like a week. She's like, it's like off being a paragon of objectivity.
I put that in my my tagline at the end of the column too this week, just because it's so funny that if you want to offer criticism, then all of a sudden you're not being objective. Like, if anything, this site would be objective.
We're subjective, but we promote both sides.
Right.
So,
and then like you have Flux, you saying that Jay Wilson, he's a person, he has an opinion, and that's okay. It's ironic that you would be saying that if you were this person who's not objective.
I think having an objective opinion is okay, and expressing that. When he was like dropped the F-bomb on him, I was like, just really? I mean, I don't think you needed to go that far.
It kind of makes you wonder what they say about us. They're
right.
I mean, this is a very senior creator of the Diablo series, basically. Invented the whole. He was the main guy who came up with the initial concepts and all the programming. And he makes a comment about how we thought they handled things poorly in Diablo 2, in Diablo 3, and it shows what a great team we had in D2. And Jay's like, F that guy. It's like, well, what does he say about when he looks at Metacritic and it's got a 2.4% review score for Diablo 3, and everyone's like, this game sucks, Jay Wilson's fat. I mean, imagine. Well, I mean, what are they doing in their office about that? With that, obviously they've managed to keep those personal and private, so we don't know. But
I mean,
it seemed a little thin-skinned.
It is one of those things too. I mean, this guy's been getting hammered by the media and from fans left and right since a week after release. Little criticism I think a person can take, but when it stems out like that, I can see where a guy could snap. And even if it is something small, like just saying F that, if it is something like that, I'm sure to get in that guy's mind, he's got to be. I don't think this was the reaction he was expecting when he created this game, and then it's got to take a toll.
And they spent 6 years working 14 hours a day.
At the same time,
and because some of that was making bad decisions, they had to redo the same thing 20 times. But obviously they put a lot of effort into the game, and it's their baby.
They still have a swimming pool full of cash at Blizzard headquarters, that they could go take a dive into at any time and cool off. I don't know.
I believe that's reserved for Bob.
Jay had like a 2-week vacation in Europe after the launch.
I think he's going to be okay, guys.
Right. One more thing, that's been on my mind. I was actually talking about it with Nazaris today. Like, with hardcore, I mean, we're a very small niche, but is the Paragon system going to take people away from even trying it? Because I think of, so many people now that are on their softcore characters trying to push them to, 50 or 60 or whatever it may be. And, they know the amount of time it takes to go into that. And now the thought of what they would lose in hardcore, like, has that perpetuated the, not going into hardcore at all? I mean, JrMint, from your perspective, like, you said you're around 10. I mean, the amount of time that you put into your character, would you go into hardcore and be willing to lose that, or do you think the Paragon system has kind of stopped that from happening?
Now, I think achievement hunters would still go for it, at least to get to level 60 and get those banners and sigils. I think people might do that. I don't think once they got to 60, they would continue using it. I have a barbarian friend that got to level 52, and now he's in Act 3 Hell. And he doesn't want to do it anymore because he's taking some big hits in hell, and he's like, oh man, I don't want to lose this. My hardcore character was a monk, and I only did monk because they have so many freaking healing and defensive abilities. It seemed like to make the most sense. I have considered going back to it. It's just monk doesn't interest me all that much. I haven't, but I would like to get a hardcore to 60 just to say I did it and get the achievement. So maybe at some point people will have that opinion.
So what are you going to do, Xanth, when at some point your level 10, your Paragon 10 or higher is going to have some bad luck? This is your third level 60 witch doctor,
right? Fourth, actually.
Well, there you go. So when it comes time for number 5, are you just going to be like, oh my god, I can't stand getting to 60 and getting 15 Paragon levels again?
I guess
how are you going to react?
I've been looking at it and
can you put a webcam on you when it happens?
I would like to
look at that.
You would just see me with a blank face, and then me immediately recreating a character. Like that's how I've handled each one of them. I guess I would kind of view it as the same time as losing a character that didn't have a Paragon level. I had spent how many hours on my first or second witch doctor or third one, whatever, farming.
A lot less than the current one. That's how
well,
many
yeah,
hours.
I had spent a decent amount farming Inferno with the third one, and what Paragon level would I have been? Who knows? But it's just for me. I don't know. I can't play any other way, so it's no choice. I have to if I like that class. Recreate it.
What's the furthest you actually progressed into Inferno with the Witch Doctor? Like not farming, but like the furthest you got with any of them?
I'm on Zoltan Cool in Act 2.
Okay.
And like I said,
Well, you died. Your barb died to gone when you were using the exploit before.
Right.
Is that as far as you got? Have you gotten Act 4?
No, not at all. And there's so many. It's right now, especially in my mind, it's minimizing risks and trying to accumulate the best gear I can before I would go further, which seems kind of counterintuitive because if I do die, I'm going to lose even more. But it's a slow going. I do have to say, like I mentioned earlier, though, it has been much easier. Going into Act 2 and stuff like that. I before the patch was in Act 2 with my monk, and it was ridiculously difficult. So I think it's been tuned down to a level that there's still a challenge, but it isn't as bad as what it used to be.
And we're all enjoying 104. You guys are still playing. Any plans on trying new characters, or you're going to keep going with what you're doing? You're happy with how it is?
I'm going to level. Go ahead. I apologize. Go ahead, Xanth.
No worries. I personally, I kind of want to. I have a barbarian that's been sitting at 51, and I've been thinking about kind of pushing him up a little bit, and trying to see the barbarian at 60 now. But at the same time, every time I log in, I immediately go right to the Witch Doctor. So I'm maybe in a couple of days or once he dies, I'll choose something different.
I definitely plan on leveling the Witch Doctor.
I
mean, like you said earlier, Flux, you look at people and you see them doing things at high level, and you're like, I want to do that. That's how I feel about the Witch Doctor. There's so much little cool things they can do. So I definitely, I want to get him to 60 for sure.
You mentioned that Paragon levels might make people not want to play hardcore. That's actually happened to me in terms of I'm just enjoying softcore more. Yeah. My Demon Hunter hardcore, I think, is 40-something. I was playing that occasionally a few weeks ago. And getting to where it was going to start getting hard, late Nightmare, you can kind of imagine maybe I could die at this point.
And I think, when there was no Paragon system, I think a lot more people were trying out hardcore because there was, nothing else to do. But now that people are more content with the game, I do think a lot of people have kind of shied away from it.
It's kind of funny, too, because, people were farming Act 1 Inferno a lot, especially back before 104 when it was much harder. And now, like you've said, in hardcore, you're getting these Paragon levels, so it's not like you're just farming hoping to get an item. You're actually getting character improvement, and you can keep doing Skeleton King runs forever and probably never die, and keep getting Paragons. And obviously, it's not a huge benefit, but you're getting some more vitality and some more stats.
Yeah, that's kind of how I.
And it's got to be kind of tempting to play it safe.
That's kind of how I summed up Paragon. I mean, yeah, there is a lot of levels, and it takes a ridiculous amount, but you're doing farming anyway, so if you're going to get stuff as you go, it's nice that they add that. I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, I think, like you mentioned, Flux, and getting a couple of stat points here and there, after 10 levels or so, or, 20, you're much more, durable and probably better suited for what may be in the next act. And then in that process, you've probably picked up some gear that could help you. So it does, boost your confidence a little bit in progression. If you, even in softcore, if you've been dying a lot in Act 2, Act 3, whatever it may be. And I think it definitely holds true for hardcore.
Okay, you've been listening to the Diablo Podcast. We are online at diablopodcast.com. Bye-bye.
Moo.